afternoon from across the pond, and happy GIS Day. Whoa, what does GIS stand for? Gardening in socks? Gimps in suits? Gregorian indie songwriters? What are you thinking? This ain't Gregorian Awareness Week. That's in December. Now, GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems, or Geospatial Information Systems. So, what does GIS do, or what can you do with GIS? Well, if you wanted to simplify it to the point where a small child could understand it, GIS is used for making maps. But in reality, it's much more than that. Now, the thing that makes GIS special is the fact that it uses databases. But let's back up just a little bit. So, back in the mid-1800s, this physician named John Snow had this great idea of mapping a cholera outbreak in London. By indicating on a map of Soho where each point in the outbreak was, he was able to determine the source of the cholera. Turns out it was coming from a well. But John Snow's map was a geographical breakthrough because it represented the world's first thematic map as we know it. Now, let's get in our time machine and travel to the 1960s, 1962 to be exact, and let's hop on over to the Great White North, where they're developing the first GIS. This great granddaddy of the GIS we use today was originally used for forestry application. Now, a geographic information system relies completely on its database. Using numerical data from a database, we can recreate as a graphical representation what everyone else would call simply a map. Now, my favorite GIS project that I've ever heard about comes from fellow stalwart geographer and instrument of mayhem, Remington Rand. See, Remington decided that he wanted to figure out the best places to find trolls in Loudoun County. Now, when I say troll, I'm not talking about the people that go on internet message boards and harass for their own general amusement. Nah, I'm talking about the billy goat eating, bridge habitating, your mama joke telling, grind your bones and use them as toothpick bad mamma jamma kind of trolls. And so, in order to figure out where these trolls lived, Remington set up 3 criteria that would basically tell him the most common places you would be able to find them. So, let's start with the first criterion, bridges. Remington was able to find every bridge in Loudoun County and then feed the coordinates of those bridges into databases, because of course trolls live under bridges. Now, Remington didn't know where all the goat farms in Loudoun County were, so it was going to be kind of hard to use that as a criterion for his search. But he did know 2 other facts about trolls that he could use. A, they like to live in places of low elevation, and B, they don't like to be around people. So, using population data and elevation data, Remington could feed these 2 parameters into his GIS to basically figure out which bridges were at the lowest elevations and had the fewest people around them, and thus would have the most trolls. Now, while Remington conceived a pretty bitchin' project, that's not all you can do with GIS. A GIS basically ties information into a space. Now, on a simple level, you could do something pretty easy like create a map of the United States. Well, easy assuming you know how to use a GIS. But in the words of data jockey Darren Bennett, you can use GIS as a tool to rule the entire friggin' world! Okay, so I made Darren sound more like a professional wrestler than the GIS aficionado that he is. But the point still stands. Rule the world, you say? But how? Well, dudes and dudettes, it's simpler than a caveman orchestra. Even before the creation of GIS, maps did a pretty good job of helping people build empires. By 1921, Britain ruled 1/4 of the world's population over 1/4 of the world's landmass, and they did it all with the help of maps. Maps enabled the British Navy to basically dominate the seas and therefore the rest of the world. Nowadays, we're a little bit removed from British Empire. But it still stands that maps have a lot of power. For instance, and this is a fun fact to know and share, did you know that companies like Rand McNally insert fake towns into their road atlases just so that they can prove that the map was drawn by their own cartographers? But you would never question a road map. You use it to get places, right? Why would a road map lie? Well, to protect the company's work. Yeah, people believe maps, and what's more, they use it to demarcate political territories. For instance, look at the American electoral system. Representation in the US is based by mapped out electoral districts. Suffice it to say that a map maker with enough political acumen could totally devise a map that basically broke up any state into districts that would totally support one party or another. Or, if he or she was really sadistic, they could turn it all into a huge battlefield, politically speaking. Fast food chains like McDonald's and Burger King use demographic and consumption data to basically figure out where their next franchise is gonna go. And if a bunch of crazy French foodies wouldn't call that trying to rule the world when you can just tickle me pink with strawberries. And GIS is geography's little matchmaker, yes it is. No fooling, you can take physical geographic elements and human geographic elements and combine them in a geographic information system to convey how interconnected humans and their processes and the physical world are. And the stuff I brought up is only the tip of the iceberg. You can use GIS to describe just about any spatial phenomenon in the world, be it migration, mountain ranges, glaciation, deglaciation, population surges. It's almost limitless what you can do with GIS. And so that's my simplistic interpretation of GIS. Any questions? No? Good. I'll see you all tomorrow.